Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lillian Lodge Copenhaver, Executive Director of the Copenhaver Center for the Advancement of Women in Communication at Florida International University. It is my pleasure to welcome you this morning to our virtual workshop, Become Your Own CEO, Entrepreneur May Be in Your Future. With the rapidly changing job market today, having the ability to recognize your own skills and set up your own successful business may very well be in your future. This morning, you will learn from two professional communicators about how you can jumpstart your careers no matter what stage you are in or will become in. We'll begin with a discussion with our speakers and then open it up to Q&A. We will be muting all of your screens until you want to ask a question, or you can type it in the chat room. It is now my pleasure to introduce our award-winning speakers. Stephanie Bertini, a reporter and host at NBC News here in South Florida, is an award-winning journalist with more than a decade of experience in television. Her career has brought her to several local news stations in both the United States and Canada. Her range of experience includes anchoring, investigative reporting and producing, as well as entertainment, traffic, and weather hosting. Bertini joined the NBC6 News team in May 2015 after reporting for the ABC affiliate in Central Florida. Before that, she spent more than 3 years in Texas at the US-Mexico border, where she anchored, reported, and produced investigative stories for the ABC affiliate there. She started her news career north of the border, working for Canadian television station CTV News Northern Ontario. Bertini has received several industry honors for her work, including an Emmy nomination, 2 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, and a national Edward R. Murrow Award. Laura Bishop launched Laura Bishop Communications, as we said earlier, 10 years ago, with the goal of doing meaningful work for clients and causes she is passionate about. With her entrepreneurial spirit and gift for identifying talent, she guides a diversely skilled crew to develop top-of-the-line strategic communication services to schools, nonprofit organizations, and companies across a range of industries, including banking, automotive, senior living, and grocery, largely concentrated in New Jersey and the Philadelphia suburbs. Her work ethic and philanthropic commitment to her community earned her recognition as a 2020 Woman of Distinction by the Philadelphia Business Journal. She also has leveraged her public relations and communications expertise, along with her educational experience, to her board positions with the American Red Cross, Cape May County, New Jersey Chamber of Commerce Education Foundation, and advisory board for the Edelman College of Communications and Creative Arts at Rowan University. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Stephanie Bertini. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Copenhaver. Always a pleasure to be here helping out with the center at FIU. Welcome to all the aspiring and or new professionals. It's my pleasure to be here and to help generate a discussion, help guide you in maybe some thought-provoking ideas, and maybe open up dialogue that you haven't thought about before. Laura, so happy and honored to be here with you. We're talking about becoming an entrepreneur, really being the CEO of your own life. I think when we go to school, we think about what we want to study. We think about what our dreams are. But those dreams, as we've learned, I've certainly learned in 15 years in television, they can change, they can be altered, they can be challenged. But when you're an entrepreneur and when you own something that is yours, that is always and forever yours. And so if it changes, the change is about you too. Laura, I want you to weigh in on this and just sort of how we can get uh, people that are studying right now or just entered the field of communications right now, young women, our audience today, to think about becoming an entrepreneur. What does that thought process look like, do you believe, when you're very young?
Well, first of all, thank you. This is such an honor and just a privilege to be here. And I just want to give a quick shout out to all of any of our clients. I know some of our clients were joining today, so I'm really happy to welcome them, and especially the high school students who may be on joining. It's such a privilege to work with younger people, younger professionals, or anyone considering entering the field and becoming an entrepreneur. I honestly, it's nice to know that in college you're actually thinking about entrepreneurship. It's really much high. It's on the radar now, where when I was in school it was not. That wasn't really something I would have considered. I think that it goes hand in hand with pursuing a career. I think you need to find ideally something that you love, something that engages you, that you can be absorbed in, that comes naturally to you, that you just get a lot of joy out of, that you're not really thinking of when is the day going to end or when is the time going to end. That I mean, of course you turn it off at certain points, but I think it needs to be something you are just thoroughly enjoy and it comes naturally, because I can relate to when I started college. I started out as an environmental science major, and I've told this story before. I hit organic chemistry and I realized that science, it was a lot of work for me. It was really hard work. And fortunately, I had a professor who noticed that I was a good writer and a communicator and encouraged me to change majors, but still keep my interest in the sciences and the environmental sciences. So I think you need to find something that that you have an interest in, and love. I mean, not more than interest, that engages you, that keeps you, that you can think about in the shower, when you're walking, when you're running, that it comes naturally to you. That's a first step. And then finding good mentors at an early age, I think, is important, so that a mentor who takes an interest in you and your career.
I want you to elaborate on that point, Laura. Mentorship really is a two-way street, because the mentors get something out of it too. What are some key ways, maybe 2 or 3 takeaways you can give our audience today that they can work on finding mentors and incorporating that in their journey?
Well, I will jump ahead. Well, just something that we talked about before was internships. So when you're in college and finding, or even and when you graduate, that you're not always going to go into a full-time job, but find an internship in a field that you're interested in. Show a lot of it. Once again, it should come naturally, like a lot of enthusiasm. Don't just tread water with that in an internship. You know, kind of stick your neck out there a bit and offer to work on projects that that may require a lot more time. It just shows, your enthusiasm shows.
To just jump off that, I think when you're trying to find any type of mentor in any field, it's about the approach. So there's these opportunities, these chances, and really being able to be a chameleon. That's kind of what you're talking about, I think, Laura, being able to just adapt in situations and seize opportunities. And then there's the seeking out. I think enthusiasm is great. I think you have to remember that you need to approach the mentor, I think, in a way that shows you're willing to invest the time. It can't be a me approach. So it has to more so be an approach of, I'd really like to get your feedback, or your insight on this. This is at the inception, right? When trying to find a mentor, and then understanding that these mentors are usually professionals with deadlines and stuff. So you have to kind of be willing to wait a little bit, or maybe reach out again if they don't. And that part, I think, can be intimidating. I think as a young woman in general, it is intimidating when you're first starting to dip your feet in the professional world. In the world of entrepreneurship, what would you say is specific to finding and grooming mentors in terms of the thought process?
Well, I think it's, let's just say it's an employee, working with me now and may want to start their own business someday. I know it's taking some risk, right?
Mhm.
You kind of sense that we're having the confidence, and I'll give you a concrete example. Ben, our newest employee and our first male employee, was interned with us until recently, and now he's our digital media specialist. And when we were offering a full-time position, we just immediately went with account associate and as his title. And he said, I'm really interested in digital media, and I know I could do a lot for the firm and for the clients. I think I'd be a better fit somewhere with another title even, and more opportunities to pursue that. Is account management the only avenue? Well, I hadn't even really been considering that. It was just sort of, account associate, and then you move up to account manager. And the fact that he took the initiative to offer that suggestion at a young age said a lot to me. So that's someone who someday may have his own firm, just sort of thinking of how another solution or an idea, and having the confidence to talk about that.
I think risk is a vital part of any career journey, and in these types of fields, communications, whether you're going to segue into entrepreneurship or not, I think one thing I really want young and aspiring professionals to know is it's all about risk, and failing is also part of the journey. So sometimes you're not going to succeed, right? And you
Right.
need to build that tough skin. We talk about tough skin, but I think maybe not enough. So everybody that is in a position of success has failed so many times. Let's talk about failure a little bit. What do you have to say about that? Because I could talk all afternoon.
Me too. I mean, honestly, you could say that Laura Bishop Communications kind of came out of, it could have been seen as a failure, but it wasn't it was an opportunity that came my way, because I really thought the firm I was going to retire from. I just was with them. And then we had the downturn in 2008, 2009, and I had the opportunity then to leave the firm, but I really hadn't been planning on that. And I think it was a month later, I was on my own and unexpectedly. And I did feel a bit like a failure. My identity had been a vice president with that firm. And then here I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I did have, even though I had clients, I felt like a bit of a failure. And there was a period earlier in my career where, so I was with Anne for years, and then I worked on my own for 16 years as a consultant. And at that time, I had children, and I just didn't feel like I needed more relationships in my life. So I really didn't think of like building a business then. But the change came because I, was going through kind of a difficult personal time in my life, and we all have those difficult times in our lives. It's just part of living, and it was a difficult personal time, and I was sort of dropping the ball on my clients as a consultant. And I have to tell you, this story is, now we do a lot of work with bond referendums, so it's a lot of evening meetings and organizing voters, organizing the community, communicating the information about the referendum. Well, I started doing that when I was on my own years ago, and right before I knew I needed to make a change, I just was not prepared for a meeting, and I didn't show up at a public presentation that I had to present at. I just didn't go. I wasn't prepared. Something, I was having a lot of struggles and I felt like a horrible failure. And if you told me then that today a lot of our work would still be with school districts and I'd have this 8-person firm, I would have told you that no, I felt horrible. So we all go through that's just that's the raw truth. That's what happened,
And it's important, I think, for anybody aspiring to do anything great or even moderately successful, that you really do understand that. So obviously, when you work in television, failures like, let's say, flubbing on the air or making an error on the air, that's so public. In some ways, it's easier, I think, for me, because it happens and then they say you're only as good as your last show, but the next show comes the next day, so you can undo it.
Right.
But I think what I really want to get into is developing a reputation, right? So reputation is far more important than perfection.
Right.
Reputation that is better than perfection has to involve a lot of resilience. So it's about branding. It's about knowing who you are. It's about owning mistakes. It's about standing up after failure. There's no way to succeed as a leader in anything if you can't build that type of reputation. Where do young women start now, Laura?
Building their reputation?
Yeah.
I think understanding their strengths and accepting their strengths as just sort of understanding that we really are good multitaskers, that the things that we are good at, we are good communicators. We take a genuine interest in others, but we do have to overcome confidence. Being willing to ask for what you deserve in a position. I have to say that's what I noticed with Ben. I mean, he's a man, young man, and he did not hesitate to ask for what he wanted, what he saw his career path should be. Something everybody can do. That's what we struggle with. I mean, I remember we at the Women of Distinction award ceremony, there were women talking about them. They were it was a male dominated field, right? So that's the question. Like, if you're entering a male dominated field, how do you break that glass ceiling, or how do you break in? And one woman commented about there aren't a lot of young women coming into the field. And my feeling is, in communications, there are so many women that we suffer from that a little bit. Like, it's assumed that it's easy to do this work, and it's not. It's very challenging, and we have to prove that sometimes and overcome that. And since we're talking about women in communications, I think it's understanding that what we're doing is a lot of study goes into it, a lot of experience is important, and it's hard work. And we bring a lot to the table that sometimes is overlooked.
I think confidence is a big thing. I know I battled with that for a long time. And I think something I'd like to interject here, especially for young women, certainly, different genders might have different challenges, but when you're aspiring to be something, yes, the mentorship is important, but then there's just the watching. I did a lot of watching, and look at women that are in these positions and look at how they carry themselves, look at how they dress, look at their mannerisms. And I'm not saying by any means to copy, but I'm saying that there is a professionalism that I think a lot of young women should strive to embrace from early on. So obviously the way you dress or the way you talk might be different amongst your friends or amongst your family, but when you're in the classroom, or when you might have opportunities to be, at something like this, we're doing it virtually, but nevertheless, anything that would put you sort of out front, maybe you're receiving an award, maybe you're going to a presentation, be very mindful as to how you choose what you're wearing, how you do your hair, how little or how much makeup you put on, and how you speak. Because I think that a lot of young women, they look at women in these roles and they think, well, she's just older, or she's just had more experience. But this all starts now. The grooming starts right now. Nevertheless, though, to kind of segue, the grooming may start now to do something professional in communication, but maybe we don't decide we want to be entrepreneurs, or we don't have the confidence to be entrepreneurs, or we don't have the revenue to start up to be entrepreneurs early on. But how do we maybe work towards that? What's a way to segue to that? I know for me, if I decided I wanted to do entrepreneurship now, Laura, you know, I have 15 years on the air experience, but I've never been in a management role. I've never been in a real leadership role other than an on-air anchoring role. So how would someone, even like me, be able to shift to do this? Because it's like, you know, you can have as little or as much experience, but being an entrepreneur involves really stepping into an arena that a lot of us might not have stepped in before. Can you speak
Right.
to that?
Well, I was fortunate because I did bring clients with me when I started the firm. I think it's a challenge if you don't have sort of that client, but if you're in this field in a public relations firm,
Right,
you have to have some foundation. I believe
right.
some foundation. If I could go back, if I did it again, I would draw on more resources than I did at the time financially, as far as just talking with a bank or talking with, I mean, I had an accountant, but I don't think I tapped into their expertise as much as I could have, or and it would have helped a lot with launching the business. Get involved with chambers of commerce and professional associations and organizations where you have an opportunity to network. The presidents or the executive directors of the chambers of commerce were a huge help boost to my business when we first started. They're happy, join that organization. They will publicize that you're launching the new business. If you have good relationship with them, they'll be your booster club, your cheerleaders. People are excited and want to see you succeed, want to see a small business or an entrepreneur succeed.
I want to talk a little bit about branding, Laura. I'm going to start it. I'm going to talk about personal branding, and I'm going to have you kind of jump in and talk about corporate branding, company branding, branding a product. Okay. So when it comes to personal branding, this is sort of what I do, have done, continue to do, right? I think authenticity is key. I think that comes from really knowing yourself. Who are you? Who is Stephanie Bertini? What is my background? Well, I'm Italian Canadian. Why do I work in the United States? Well, it was a dream I had when I was a little girl to one day work in New York City. Hopefully I get there eventually. I'm in Miami now, not a bad stop. What about my history makes me successful in my career? Well, I'm a person that comes from a big family. My first degree was in history. I know a lot about global and international relations. That all comes to the forefront when I'm reporting and working in a market like Miami. Who am I as a person? I'm an outspoken person. I'm a person that enjoys the arts, that enjoys entertainment. I'm a person that can connect with people on and off the screen. That has helped me grow. And what does that mean for my branding? It means that every photo that ever goes out there of me in a professional sphere, everything that I do, my work, my extension into the community, it all has to come back to that picture. It all has to make sense, right? I think we have an extra challenge now, and we have an extra responsibility as the mentors, as the teachers for our younger generation, to remind you and to really give you a warning that social media can make or break you, and everything will live and continue to live online. So think about whatever you're putting out there. Think about the person that you are and what the professional version of that is, right? So I'm certainly not Stephanie Bertini on the air in the entirety that I am in my personal life. I am the polished professional best version of that. And it doesn't mean it's not authentic or it's not true or it's sort of divided. It means that this is what I am as a professional in public, and it is and has been consistent. It can evolve, it can grow. I had to evolve it and change it 2 years ago when I became a mom. But you know, it all goes back to that same thing. It's about being authentic and true to yourself. Writing, public speaking, anything with politics, anything about history, anything that has to do with social media, any course that has to do with any kind of video editing or video compilation. That's just kind of what I came up with, just with my experience of being in school and what I found that has really worked and translated. Getting back to the writing, that's key and crucial no matter what you do in the field of communications, right?
I also, economics, it's just kind of an understanding of business. I mean, just economics, how our economy works, and then drilling it down to business courses. You know what? And if you are really thinking of running your own firm, you need to find something like, I would definitely take some type of a course with QuickBooks or something so you understand the management of the firm, because that is a challenge, and you're not always going to be able to lean on someone to help you through that.
And I think, especially speaking to our high school students, the ones that are joining us today, that are going to be selecting college and university courses, and then to our students in university and college, look, understand this too. It doesn't end when you get the degree. So I just recently completed a master's degree, but during that time and before that time, and now I continue to taking professional courses in my field. If I decided I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, I would look for courses that would speak to that. So when you're studying, you want to build that base, right? And you want to explore the things, as Laura said, maybe I don't need this, but maybe I will. But then also keep in mind that the learning doesn't end. We learn in school setups, we learn in professional workshops and seminars, and we learn from each other. When we talk about the world of entrepreneurship, what are some specific skills that you think we should work towards, we should aspire to? What are some skills that really work in that arena, Laura?
Skills, attention to detail, you have to pay attention to everything that's going on. Especially when you're first building it, and as you develop confidence in if you're building a staff, as you develop confidence in the people that you bring on board, then you can let go of some of that. But you still want to be able to you want to know what's going on in every aspect of the firm, at least have a sense of that, and attention to those details are critical. I would say, I don't know if it's a skill or just, but you have to be very determined. It's just this determination that you're going to get through this, or if it's a challenge, just a certain drive that it's not overbearing, but you can't shrink like shrivel at all. You have to and also know that you may have long hours and long days, and but just keep up with it, have enthusiasm. I don't know if it's a skill, but but you have to be like and then also I never consider myself a risk taker, but I think I am. I think I just am willing to sort of put my neck out there and take a risk.
To recap Laura's list: attention to detail, determination, a tireless work ethic.
Work ethic, right.
Being a risk taker, networking, and a genuine interest in what you touch. And I can tell you, to succeed as a reporter or an anchor, you need the same skills in your toolbox. I want to be an entrepreneur. Well, you need money to start a business. Can you speak to that, Laura? Because I think a lot of students too, we have to understand, I mean, sometimes they're graduating with debt, right? Or they don't really know about finances because maybe they've never had to manage them themselves. It could be the opposite end. Maybe parents are paying for school and they don't know anything about money. But when you're going to start something up, you need some kind of capital. You need to at least know where to get it, how to manage it. How do you do that from the inception? What do people need to know about that specific aspect of this?
Well, that's what I touched on earlier too, about, and that personal finance or some type of finance course in college would be is important if you're considering pursuing becoming an entrepreneur. But I think, I know, talk to your banker. I mean, you do need financing, SBA or any type of, network enough and ask enough questions, and don't be afraid to ask that, because there's this perception that business owners are coming in with a lot of money, and it's just not true. I mean, it's just building from the ground up. I started with clients, but I had to build them. I mean, and bill out for them for the work I was doing. I mean, this happened to me. I went to a bank to open up a credit card when I was launching my business, and I don't know, they approved me for $1,000. And I said, I'm not opening a lemonade stand. I mean, it was just sort of, insulting, but I believe if I would have gone to a business banker, gone to the SBA and gotten more advice early on, I don't know why I didn't. I mean, I had nothing to be ashamed of. I was launching a business. Find those resources. Don't hesitate to talk and go to your chambers. And honestly, you could go, counties often have resources available to support small businesses. So look for any resource that's available to you, to take, even if it's a loan to sort of get you through, to get you started, and network as much as possible, network constantly.
We have to speak about the times we're in, COVID, the pandemic. We saw a lot of changes last year. We're continuing to deal with how life has been changed and altered this year. We don't know what it's going to look like 6 months into this year. We don't know how things may regress back to what they were or continue to change. What does having the ability to adapt to big changes, what does it mean in the world of entrepreneurship? And specifically, how have you, Laura, been able to manage and navigate what's been going on?
Well, we've been fortunate because we stayed busy. We stayed almost busier than we were before when COVID came in. I applied for PPP immediately, and I sat on webinars that were sponsored by Chambers of Commerce, so I understood what was available to me as a small business owner and what I could take advantage of. And I did receive PPP funding, which helped immensely and just provided that cushion and security for us. Once again, just tap into the resources, the Chambers of Commerce, the webinars that they've held.
You talked about having a base, Laura. So how do we kind of get our students especially to understand? So there's the vision, there's the ideas, and then there's the execution. What in your experience is the best way? Is it about getting some concrete experience after school and then venturing out? Do you support venturing out right out of college? I mean, I know you can't give us a blanket statement, but in general, what would you suggest?
Well, you know what, we read about those success stories of somebody young, and even in high school, the multi-million-dollar idea, that they launched the business. I think generally, though, you should get some experience in the field working for an organization, and maybe more than one type of organization or company, to get a sense of that strong work ethic, and know what you like about it and what you might do differently.
So anytime there's something that I really don't have a full grapple on or fully understand, or something that's maybe just intimidating, that I'm getting some advice, but I want some more advice, I'll always look at who can help me understand this more. So I was talking about being the forever learner, right? So getting that understanding, getting that advice, getting that guidance is always crucial as you're growing towards entrepreneurship, towards anything in communications and anything really, right? Because it's impossible for you and your network to have all of the knowledge that you need to grow and to really be successful. It's like the more people you know, the more exposure you have, the better off anything is going to be. I've always kind of embraced that.
Right.
Would you agree, Laura, on that part?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
We've been looking at your questions as they've been coming in. If you have any specific questions for Laura, send them over to me. But I'm looking at other questions you're asking and trying to infuse them into the dialogue. I want to talk specifically, Laura, if we can shift to your life pre-entrepreneurship. What did you know about yourself, and what kind of set you off early on as a young woman in college that now you reflect and you're like, oh yeah, that was always part of the journey, or I could see now that I had that and here I am? Because hindsight's 2020, right? So kind of talk about it a little bit.
Well, I've always been very determined. So I'm the oldest of six, so that may have created a bit of a natural leader. I don't even remember some of the things, like my mom saying if she was running late, she could always count that I'd start dinner or do, keep things moving. So as the oldest of six, I think that was came naturally to me. But I was always determined. I mean, when I was sophomore year, as I mentioned, environmental science major, I loved science. I just wasn't very good at it at a certain point. So I was devastated when I didn't think I was going to pursue a career in the sciences. So I had to take a semester off and work full-time, unpaid at St. Francis Community Center. That's what I did, 40 hours a week, earned 5 credits there. And that changed my career. And then they offered me 2 days a week there, and I was able to shift from, and I waitressed, and I was able to shift from living on campus to living at home and commuting, which was a long commute. It was an hour and a half, but one way, but I worked it out because I knew that I needed to put myself through school. So I was always determined that, okay, this was a setback. All right, I'm going to figure this out. I'll figure this out. And then when I, became pregnant with Amanda unexpectedly, unplanned, and that summer I thought I was going to be, buying a Miata and traveling to Italy, and instead I had a baby. But I stayed determined that I was going to succeed, and I was going. I mean, did I think was I thinking I'm going to succeed? Nope. I knew I had this was an opportunity, and I kept in touch with Anne Klein and just built from there. So it's a determination that I've always had. And then, I mean, sometimes it's, the flaw is sometimes I don't ask for help soon enough. I wish I would have asked for help occasionally more often, when I maybe didn't understand something I was working on.
A specific question for students interested in freelance communication work, such as writing, design, and photography. Is setting up an LLC the best way to go? What would you say about that, Laura?
I don't think they need to set up an LLC right away. I think just get started as a consultant if they want, or again, start networking and, see if you can attend a Chamber of Commerce event, or work as an intern if they're new to the field, it's great to get experience with someone who's already established that business and work as an intern.
I think I can help elaborate on this. So in general, it's always the advice I try to give, but I've definitely seen it prove worthwhile in my own career. So you really want to do the work behind the scenes, so to speak. You really want to get the skill set. You really want to get to a level of professionalism on your resume where you have some stuff under your belt before you step too far out as this is who I am, because you don't want to have anything, especially in the digital world, that represents what you are not yet. So it doesn't mean you won't be that, but you're not yet. So even specifically when I talk to students that are studying broadcasting, right, I'm really against putting the demo reel on the internet. And the reason I'm against that is because there's no way that demo reel will reflect how good you are, how good you can be, even working 1-2 years in the business, than it will from when you're in school. But that's going to live there forever. So whenever you're making a commitment like setting up an LLC or putting yourself out there or really presenting yourself as I'm the professional that can do this, I think you first have to really be the professional that can do this. That's the best way I can put it. I don't know if you want to elaborate on anything, Laura, but you understand the direction I'm headed with this.
Right, Stephanie, I think that's very good advice. I really do. And I can relate even to early in my career with occasionally thinking that I knew what I was doing and I didn't need the help. And then you have a good mentor, he or she is going to gently remind you that you're getting a little
what you're doing.
Yeah, you're too big for your britches right now. You kind of need to dial it back, and there's a lot you still need to learn. So
yeah. So I don't know if it's good or bad. It might be, to some. In some opinions might be good, in some opinions it might be bad. But I've always taken the position that I don't know what I'm doing. So so the best part about that is when you do know what you're doing, you always look good. But I think young women especially, it's about how you carry yourself. You don't want to come off as boastful. You don't want to come off as overly confident. You want to come off as someone who's eager to learn and willing to do the work. And you want people to tell you you're good at this. These are your strengths, especially your first 10 years in. I would not take the position that you know anything your first 10 years in. Keep it to yourself. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. You certainly don't need to advertise those things. What you need to present always is a body of work that illustrates what you can do honestly. And then that reputation is so important. That's why I talked about it, is what will other people say about you, about your work ethic? What is your reputation online? How do people look at you? And that's why all of the stuff we talked about this afternoon is important, whether you're doing anything in communication, but especially if you're going to go off and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, because then it's all on you. It's on your back. Laura, what you're doing, if your firm fails, at the end of the day, you can point fingers, but the failure is yours, right?
Right, exactly. And you know what? It's interesting you point that out, because we had something, I guess a couple of years ago, where there was a problem with a printed annual report and a page was missing. And it was a honest oversight. And the woman, the employee who, that was on her, that was her client, was ready to take it all on as her mistake and pay for it. And I said, no, we're a firm. So if, we all make, it stopped with us, like with us, right? So it's the firm. So we took that hit. No, not an individual, right? So it does stop with Laura Bishop Communications, and it's our reputation out there when we succeed and when we have a failure. So you have to work together at that. And it does stop with us, with me.
Right. And it's so funny because the advice I always give is get ready to fail. And I talk about it so much. Sometimes, when I'll go speak to especially like aspiring broadcast journalists, like, Stephanie, easy on the failure. But the failure is so important. It's such a vital part of the journey, and it humbles you.
Right.
In order to have people that want to mentor you, want to help you, want to see you succeed, you do need that element of humility, right? Because we're all fighting. We're all in the rat race, right? And for Laura to want to give, someone who's younger in their career or aspires to be what she is, any amount of energy, right? She has to feel like that is going to be at least appreciated, and that her time is going to be well invested. Maybe it's not going to give you an exact return, Laura, but you want to at least feel that you're putting, there's so many that would benefit from you mentoring them. So you need to really put your time and your energy into things that are at least going to make you feel like you're doing something worthwhile, like giving us your time today, right?
Thanks, Stephanie. Right. I did notice
on that note, let me jump in and thank both of our speakers for giving of your time today. This has been a very interesting and lively discussion of a topic. And I think we've all learned a lot, no matter what stage we're in right now. I think we learned a couple of things, have confidence, be determined, take a chance, and jump in, but do your homework first and get some experience under your belt. I'm kind of summing up what both of our wonderful speakers have given us. I said this afternoon, we've just crossed over into the afternoon.
We did.
But crunch time.
Absolutely.
So, Lillian, I actually want to close with, I wanted to share one thing that I had mentioned, kind of draw inspiration from a number of writers and sources. And I read Seth Godin's blog daily, which I always find something inspirational. But I did find, I have something from 2017 from Dwell magazine, of all places, the editor-in-chief at the time. She just wrote, "Building something is never easy." And I cut that out and I keep that with me all the time, because she was talking about renovations and construction, but it meant so much to me building this business at the time. And what she said in here was, making an impact is not guaranteed. Mistakes are okay. And she also says there are many voices that will tell you why something can't be done. Never allow your own voice to be among them. And then she closed with, building something is never easy, but it is brave. don't get discouraged, show your mettle, swing that hammer, and don't look back, because this is only the beginning. So finding something like this, to me, I mean, I read this so often, and it had nothing to do with public relations and communication, but there you have it. That, I think that.
But it has everything to do with life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really
In every
does.
aspect. That's a really wonderful quote.
Yes.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning, afternoon. And thank you particularly to Laura Bishop and Stephanie Bertini for giving us a really beneficial, thought-provoking hour. We really appreciate it, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you to everybody
Bye.
else for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye-bye.